I'm gonna climb a tree.
Watch out.
Ah!
Hi there. Welcome to another episode of the Board Game Business Podcast. I'm your host, Richard New, and I'm here as always with Jeremy Commander and Brian Hink. I was almost going to say Brian Hink and Jeremy Commander. Switch that up a little bit. Just see if our viewers are paying attention.
You should.
We'll have a big April Fool's episode where I do that sometime.
The audio listeners will be like, "You did that right. I don't understand. Why are people freaking out?"
Why is the audience laughing? That's weird.
Throughout the whole episode, I mean, so Brian.
All right, today we're going to be talking about should I use a print and play? And Brian, you've done this a couple times. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us what are the advantages, disadvantages? Why would you choose to make a print and play version of your game?
Yeah, as a publisher, I use print and plays for a lot of different things. Probably some things that people wouldn't expect. One would be, so let's see, an obvious one would be to get some early feedback from people about a game that we've designed. I haven't actually done this, but a lot of people do it. You know, they'll put a print and play up on BGG to get some feedback. I've considered it, but I've never actually done that. But yeah, we've talked about it. But what we have done is we've done it for Kickstarter campaigns. So the game isn't complete yet, or usually like maybe in our past campaigns the art hasn't been done. But we have a functional game that we'll put a print and play up for it. So it won't have final illustrations usually. It might be black and white. Sometimes we do a color one or a limited player. Like our games usually play many players, but we'll do one that's like a 2-player version or a 3-player version that people can get a feel for it. So we've done that before for Kickstarter campaigns. Sometimes we just do a completely full game, usually not with final illustrations. Mm-hmm. That's usually like a reward level for $5 or $10.
I've seen that in Kickstarter
yeah.
before.
Yeah. And as a big backer, I back a lot of those.
Yeah.
There's a lot of games that I see go up in Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not willing to know if I'm willing to spend, like, especially the more expensive ones, so like $30, $50, $70. Like, I don't know if I'm willing to drop that much money on this game that I don't have a lot of confidence in. But if the print and play is like $5, so like, for $5, sometimes even for $10 to get me to bite, I'll give it a try. And then often what I'll do is I'll get the print and play. I'm almost always too lazy to print it out and actually do it.
I was going to say, I don't remember you bringing a bunch to
there's
game
so much
night.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but what I will do is I'll look at the print and play. I'll read their rules. I'll look at their artwork. I can see the whole game, right? It's like a full game preview. And if it looks good, then I will go out and buy a physical copy. And the print and play is kind of my shop ahead.
That actually brings me to an interesting point. So when I first started doing Kickstarter campaigns, I thought the print and play was for people to print it out, play it, make sure the game is fun. Because for me, that's the most important thing. You know, I'm from like the NES era where I don't care about graphics. I want good gameplay. That's all I care about. So that's what I thought.
Here's Brian's 8-bit logo.
Right. So that's what I thought people did with them. But actually, Kim Brebeck did an interesting poll on Facebook. I think it was on Facebook. Where he asked people, what do you use a print and play for? Right. And it really opened my eyes to exactly that. Most people just look, according to his poll, maybe 100 people or so answered it, but most people use it to look at the components and look at the art in it, to see if it looks appealing to them. But every print and play that I put up on a Kickstarter campaign has had temporary art. From like the Noun Project or something, just to have the game out there so people can play it and make sure it's a fun game. I didn't
some of them
realize,
are black and white.
Yeah. I didn't realize that I was turning a lot of people off, thinking that my art is just like vector black and white art. So
I think that's true for most print and plays. It's so much work to print it all out and sleeve it or assemble it and glue it together. Yeah. And I think people are just looking to kind of check that game out to shop for. There are dedicated people who do print and play. Yep. A lot of people just download it and look at it. Right. And so you want it to look good when they're looking at it.
Yeah. I would also think like if you had full art and full color, like that might be a turnoff to actually printing it out.
Expensive.
For a personal printer if you use one. And if you go out, and I had a recent experience with this, going out to a FedEx printing place, getting them to print it out, because a lot of times they see that type of thing and they're like, oh, that looks like copywritten material. I don't want to, take part in this, even though it's perfectly kosher.
So Brian, do you worry about people getting a full color print and play from you, printing out, making their own copy of the game, and then deciding, oh, I have it, I don't need to buy it?
Yeah, definitely. I think I did more in the past.
So there's more concern in the past, and now it's less of a fear.
It's less of a fear, but it's still there. I mean, every time I spend, months and months making a game, and paying for all the art and the graphic design, spending a lot of money, and then I just put it out there for free, it's there in my mind. Like, people are just gonna just take this for free, and so it is a concern, but I know that the value of getting it out there is much higher, than losing a few sales here or there. Because more people are gonna play it, they're gonna be excited about it. Most people will still
probably get more sales off of that than you probably lose. Like the person who says, "I'm gonna buy this." Oh, there's a free version.
That's it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Versus the person that says, "Hey, look, a free version. I really like this. I want one that holds up and is solid and comes in a nice box." And
so there's two other ways that I use print and plays too as a publisher. One. For our international publishing friends, when someone from a publisher in another country says, "Hey, I'm interested in your game. I might want to publish it in my area," they'll localize it by translating English into whatever language, and then they'll publish it, and they'll reach out to use their marketing to sell it in their area. That I can't really reach because in English version. Plus, I don't know where their game stores are. I'm not connected to that area of the world. They'll do it, and so that's very appealing to me. But the easiest way, it can be expensive to ship these games to them if they're just kind of like not even sure if they want it. I'll usually do it, but usually what I'll do is I'll send them a print and play first and say, "Hey, check this out." Then they can look at it. They can look at the art and the components and the graphic design and say, like, "Yeah, I could easily translate this to another language. This seems like a fun game. Now, could you please send me a copy?" And I'll seriously consider it.
And this is harder for designers to do, so I realize not everybody can do this, but if I made my print and play in an application or a format that is standardized around the world. So Brian does a lot of his in Photoshop because Brian knows Photoshop. And if I'm doing Super Pro, I should do it in InDesign or Illustrator. But not everybody can do that. The learning curve and the cost would be too high. But if it wasn't InDesign or Illustrator or Photoshop, Brian can actually send those files electronically to that international publisher, and they just change the language in the files, send them to the printer, just like Brian did, and they're good to go. And that's a tremendous value for them to license that game.
Yeah, and that's something we've learned too over the years now, that we do try to do that. At first we didn't, but now we build our games and our image files, our print files for the printer, so that it's easy to translate to other languages, because we realized that was something that people do. The last thing that I'll mention is for our playtesters. So now, at this point, when we're recording, we're getting ready for our Leaders of Euphoria campaign. So we have 88 playtesters that we're sending this out to. And I was thinking about that too. Like, I could just hand make all of these, I suppose. I mean, I have cabinets full of cards.
88 copies.
I know, 88
That's too many.
copies.
No, pay the game crafter.
And think about all the ink that would cost, all the time to use my paper cutter, to cut all these cards out, put them probably in sleeves, and man, that would.
Because what Brian needs is more things to do with his business.
Really?
Right.
We were talking about that before we recorded. Work you have during the week, and during the weekend it's work on your games.
What Brian needs is more menial labor tasks. That's
Right.
that he could pay someone else to do at a discount.
So I thought about it. It was a brief thought, but I thought about doing it myself. And I just decided, no.
If you're going to do 10 copies, maybe you could handle similar yourself. But anytime you're getting more than 5, I think, have the game crafter or drive through cards or print and play productions, have someone do that for you.
Yeah.
Because your time is valuable and you could be spending that on other things.
So what we're doing here is we're giving people 3 options. Because one of the campaign isn't going to launch for a few months, but we do want to start building buzz. So we have 3 options. One, it's a free print and play that people can just, we're going to send this to everybody, all 88 people. We're going to say, here's a print and play. You can print this out and play it yourself. But some people don't want to do that. They don't want to spend the time. We want these playtesters to give us feedback, to actually play this game. So we want to make it as easy as possible for everybody. So we have an option where people can just pay us. So this is going to we're going to do it through the Game Crafter, do a bulk order from them. Each copy is going to be about $25 to make and ship in the U.S. It's going to be more to ship to outside of the U.S., significantly more. So $25, $30, $35 or so per copy times 88 would be way more than we'd be willing to spend on this. We just can't.
Even if you counted that against your marketing budget.
Yeah, it would just be too much. Thousands of dollars to send playtest copies out. We can't do it. So we have an option where people can give us $10, and we'll subsidize the rest of it. We'll pay the 15, 20, 25 bucks extra and send it out to everybody, so they get a physical copy. But for the $10 option, they also have to post 3 times on social media about the game to help kind of build buzz. So that's kind of a way to pay for some of the rest of the subsidizing that we're doing. Then the last option, if people don't want to post, they don't want to have that requirement, then they can pay $17. And so we'll subsidize less of it, still send them a physical copy. But we always have that print and play option, and we're going to send that to everybody. So we use it for playtesting too. So, Jeremy, what do you want to see? When you look at a print and play, you're thinking about backing, like a Kickstarter campaign. What do you want to see when you know something isn't going to be a card, when it's going to be a mini or chipboard? What do you want it to look like? How do you know when you're looking at it that, oh, I know this isn't going to be a card in the final one. It's going to be cool.
I would accept a 2D stand-in. That's fine. It's just a little picture of the little ship mini or whatever. It's going to be a little guy. Okay. And I put that in a little stand and use that. And that's okay. Because I realize it's going to be a print and play. Yeah. So I can't have physical or three-dimensional things. Mm-hmm. And so if you down convert things to 2D to make it usable for the print and play, I'm okay with that. Really what I want to see is I want to see the artwork for your game. Does the artwork look good? Do I get a sense of the theme? Or in looking at the rules and the cards together, do I get a sense, or the components together, a sense for the whole game? Okay. And okay. And this is also a reason why a lot of campaigns, they back at this level, and we'll send you the print and play after the campaign is over, right? Mm-hmm. And so I just got one of those yesterday, and I just downloaded it, looked at it yesterday. Mm-hmm. And so their campaign was over, and they sent me a link via Dropbox or something to get the print and play. Mm. But that also means I now, depending on what they've set up some kind of after funding, I can't go this game looks great, I should have backed that. Yeah. It's now too late. I have to wait for it to come out. Mm-hmm. And if they had sent me the print and play ahead of time, now you might be able to get me to upconvert from the print and play level to the full game level. Because this looks great. I need to up my pledge and get a physical copy of this game.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever do print and plays for your Star Trek design?
Absolutely. We have a program that, since all our templates are already done, and they stay the same from set to set. I mean, there's 7 card types and nothing else changes about them. It's just the text that goes on them. We have a program that basically we can type in what text we want in what places, and it makes the card for us, and it will print up a sheet of 9 of them, and so that we can send out that PDF file to our playtesters. There's no art, there's no picture, except for, the templates are still there.
If someone wants to look at these, just for comparison of what an amazing print and play PDF looks like, where's the website where they can find these?
It's trekcc.org. And so there's 2 editions of the game. The one that I'm talking about, you can look at either one. They both have great art. But the one that I'm talking about is the 2nd edition, so it's going to be on the right-hand side of the screen, and just a bunch of little boxes there that you can click on for any particular expansion. And just look at the ones towards the top, and those are the most recent ones. And you can check out the PDF files and see what they look like and what it looks like to print out 9 cards on a page.
Some of the best print and plays files I've ever seen. They're amazing. Yeah.
So, what do you use print and plays for, Jeremy?
I use print and plays as design. So I use print and plays as a designer for development purposes or shopping the game to a publisher. And so, if I'm going to take my game to a publisher and show them at a convention, some publishers want a physical copy, some don't. Because the way they pack up and leave the convention, they can't take anything extra. Everything has a place. They all pack it up and ship it out, and they're like, I don't want a physical copy. I want
even me as a regular guy. You pack your suitcase. You're going to have to bring those clothes back with you. I know you've talked about bringing old clothes so you can throw them away so you have more space left. But even then, if I'm buying a big box of a game, and I put that in there, I might not have a lot of room for other, bringing back everything that I win in a contest or bring, promos and all sorts of stuff like that. So it could be difficult there. It's much better to have just a file on a thumb drive that I can take home.
Before I go to a con, I make sure that I have a print and play of my prototype game. In this case, it doesn't have final art. It's a prototype as a PDF that every device should be able to read. up in Dropbox or Google Drive or a file sharing service before I go. So if anyone asks me, oh, can you send me a print and play copy? So if a publisher is interested, can you send me a print and play? So usually what I do is the sell sheet first. They look at the sell sheet, maybe they hear a pitch, and then they'll either ask for a physical copy or they'll ask for a print and play file, depending on their process. So I need to have both. So I need to have multiple physical copies, and I need to have the print and play file ready to go. And what I'm trying to do now is have it like loaded on my phone, like the Dropbox app. Like, yeah, no problem. Type in your email, and I'm going to send it to you right now.
And being prepared like that kind of gives you a competitive advantage over the other designers who are trying to get attention from that publisher.
I was at Gen Con, and I ran out of physical copies for a game that people are interested in. I'm out of physical copies, and someone else asked for a physical copy, so I went to Kinko's in the convention center, and it was expensive, but printed another copy from my PDF file, assembled it, and I had some spare cards and put together and had a physical copy to give them. And so it's nice to have that file on demand, because if you're at some convention somewhere, there's probably a Kinko's or someplace within range. And depending on how much it would cost to print out, it may be worth doing.
So we mentioned it a little bit earlier, but what software would you use to make a print and play?
Yeah, so there's different approaches to this. Some people, they do their print and play in MS Paint or whatever they have access to or can use, or GIMP, which is like a third-party Photoshop alternative. And that does work. I want to give you some different options and different alternatives, because I know people have struggled with this. If you can get to the point where you're making your print and play in Photoshop like Brian does, or Illustrator or InDesign like the industry does, that's of higher value. But then you have to pay the monthly subscription for that software. You could pay for just 1 month, do it, and then let the subscription last. And you have to learn it. And there's plenty of online tutorials that will teach you how to do that. Daniel Solis, who I've mentioned before on the podcast for his icon collection, has tutorials. He'll teach you InDesign and also how to automate InDesign for game production.
Does he have YouTube videos for that? Or
the videos, some of them are public, but some of them are you back as Patreon, so they're private. So you get access to them if you back as Patreon.
That's cool.
And so that may be worth checking, because he's a master of that. That may be worth checking out. The other alternatives, if you're on a Mac, there's a wonderful app called Pixelmator, available in the Mac App Store, which does 90% of what Photoshop does for $30. And they have a full video tutorial suite that will teach you how to use that. That's an amazing app. I own the full version of Photoshop, the pre-subscription one. It's like the $700 version.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not installed on my machine right now, because I did a new machine. I put Pixelmator on there. I think, this will open Photoshop files, and I'll put Photoshop on it when I need it. I haven't needed it yet. Wow. So Pixelmator would be worth checking out. Again, if you're on a Mac, Apple's Pages can do page layouts. And I've actually made whole PDF print and plays, even mock-ups of TCGs in there, that looked as good as the real thing. And just learning a little bit of Pages, it's like InDesign Junior or InDesign Lite, and that's a $20 app if you don't already have it on your computer. And then I want to mention 2 more tools. One is Paperize, which is in private beta now, but you could probably ask and get an invite. Paperize takes a Google Docs spreadsheet and turns it into a printable PDF laid out prototype, all automated for you within an existing template. So there's a bunch of templates to choose from, and it automates the process for you. Okay. You tested the webcomic fantasy game that I was working on, and that was made with that tool.
Okay.
And what they're working on now, because it's still in beta, because they're still working on it, it's buggy, is the ability to make your own templates. And you can lay out whatever template you want, turn the spreadsheet into the template, and then it outputs a PDF, and you're all done. And it does all that layout for you. So Paperize may be worth checking out. You can Google it. Yeah. And then one more that's available now, opened to everyone. This is a more primitive version of like Paperize, where it's just to output RPG-style cards. And you spreadsheet out some data, and then it builds all the files for you. So if you're building a print and play for playtesting, not like a final art one, that's a great automated tool, and that's free and available now. And the source code's up there, and you can modify it and look at it. Or you could just run it. It runs in the browser, so it's all browser-based, and you can run it right there. Paperize is also browser-based and do that. So those are some different tools or alternatives if you're looking for a way to make a print and play or automate your print and play for testing purposes.
Well, thank you guys for joining me today. I've been your host, Richard New, and I'm here as always with Jeremy Commander and Brian Hink. I should have switched that one. All right, and I'll see you guys across the table someday. Hey, this is Richard to remind you that you can check out our website at boardgame.business. Old episodes are indexed by subject to make finding an answer to your question easier. You can find links to our BGG Guild, other networking sites, and, if you feel like supporting us, our Patreon account. Donations are used for equipment to improve the presentation of our podcast. Thanks for watching or listening.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.